Welcome to an Achieving Science video. This video is going to cover hormones in human reproduction. So let's begin. As we grow up and as we mature, we go through a cycle of puberty. Puberty is where reproductive hormones cause secondary sex characteristics to develop. We need to know then what these hormones are. Well, they differ between males and females. In females, it is estrogen that is responsible, as where in males, it is testosterone that is responsible. Now let's look at some of the changes that occur as a result of these hormones. Let's begin with boys changing into men. As a result of these hormones, the sex organs begin to get bigger. The testes start to produce sperm and release hormones. Pubic hair begins to start to grow. The voice deepens, and there are behavioural changes that occur. Now let's look at girls changing into women. As a result of the estrogen, the changes that occur include the ovaries start to release eggs. The ovaries start to produce hormones. Menstruation begins. Breasts begin to grow, and there are again behavioural changes that occur. Now, one of these key changes is the menstrual cycle, because this begins. Now, the menstrual cycle is a cycle of events whereby the female's lining of her womb begins to prepare itself ready to receive a fertilized egg. Now, this cycle lasts for approximately 28 days. Now, it's intended that it's preparing for a fertilized egg to be received. But if no egg is received, what happens is the lining will break down and the whole cycle will begin again as a fresh new lining begins to be built. Now, how does this happen? Well, again, this is down to hormones. Hormones are chemicals which are able to travel in the bloodstream, and they act as chemical messengers. And they are used to control the events within the menstrual cycle. If we look at the female reproductive organs, we can see here on the diagram that we've got the main reproductive organs at the base, which consists of the ovaries and the uterus. But also linked to this is the pituitary gland is important within this cycle, because within the brain there is a special gland called the pituitary gland. Now, within the menstrual cycle, there are 4 key stages that occur. The easiest way to identify the cycle has started is on day 1 when the bleeding starts. This is where the lining of the uterus, the womb, begins to break down. And this usually takes around about 4 days, with a female producing around an egg cup full of blood. Now that the lining is broken down, the next stage then begins. This is where the womb, the uterus, begins to thicken up. This happens between around about day 4 to day 14. The lining is thick, it's spongy, and it has lots of blood vessels, and so is very nutritious and is ready to receive a fertilized egg. The next key event to follow this. Well, on day 14, an egg is released from the ovary. This process is called ovulation. After this point, the wall of the uterus is maintained for around about the next 14 days, so between day 14 and day 28. At this point, there is then two options. If the fertilized egg is received, then pregnancy will continue, and hopefully you'll have a nice young child at the 9 months. But if no egg is received, then the lining will break down and the cycle will begin again. But how does the body know what to do and when to do it? Well, this is again all down to hormones. Within the menstrual cycle, the main hormones will control what happens, and they include FSH, stands for follicle stimulating hormone, LH, luteinizing hormone, estrogen, and progesterone. So the first stage. First of all, FSH is produced by the pituitary gland. This causes the egg within the ovary to begin to develop. At the same time, it will also stimulate the ovaries to begin to produce estrogen. The second event is signaled by estrogen, produced by the ovaries. Estrogen is responsible for causing the lining of the uterus to thicken and grow. It will also stimulate the production of LH, whilst also inhibiting, which means slowing down, the production of the hormone FSH. Next, LH is then produced by the pituitary gland. It will stimulate the release of an egg on day 14, i.e. ovulation. Finally, progesterone is produced in the ovaries, which will maintain the lining of the uterus. If this causes a drop in this level, then the lining will break down and the cycle will begin again.